Yeah.
In the waiting room, I know, I was gonna set up for.
Doesn't look like there's anyone there.
Oh, okay.
So it shows up on their rating.
Well, Mike, Tom and Sal all said they would be on, so. I don't see any of them.
Because it usually pops up on the right side.
Right, 2,300 homes. That's pretty powerful. Okay. Right, maybe the bulbs are in there, maybe that's why it's in the bottom. Nick, did you send out the link I sent you or this link?
I didn't send any links.
Okay.
You did.
Did I send it to everybody?
Mhm.
Well, I'm not gonna get it.
Yeah. Yeah, you sent it to everybody.
Oh, I thought I just sent it to you.
No,
I should have set it up.
it's the same link, isn't it? Oh, I guess they're not getting on then.
I can't send out a town link, I can only send out.
Well, it's on the website too, isn't it?
I'm sorry.
The Zoom link is on the website. At least last time I looked, it was.
Maybe
Oh, yeah.
email it to them. Is anybody texting?
Once you said you'd send it out and you did, I didn't bother with anything more with Zoom.
Okay.
It's on the website.
It is, right?
Yeah,
I thought so.
everything.
Okay. That's what I thought. That's where I always looked in the past, because for some reason I wouldn't get the emails. But let me see if anybody wrote. Sal is on, what did he say? Will not be able to attend. Okay, so he's not gonna be on, but I haven't heard from anybody else.
Mike Reese is asking, why isn't the Zoom working?
That's a great question, Mike. I don't.
Because Monica's not here. Yeah, so it was supposed to be on mine, but they switched it back to the town one. What's the?
Okay, so it's not yours.
No.
Does it have to be changed? The mic?
It's on, I think.
It's Stuplinski. Somebody ought to mail a link to,
It's on the town website.
huh?
It's on the town website.
Okay, Tom, go to the town website
Okay.
and this, under the budget committee, or where is it on the website?
Yep, under budget committee.
Oh, the numbers and Deborah's.
Okay, if you Google Zoom and just sign on, I'll give you the meeting ID and the passcode.
So you'll go to the town website.
No, well, you can, if you can find it on the town website, if not, I'll give you the ID number and the passcode.
Let me just see if I can get.
Hey, are you gonna call, email or text Mike?
Me, I'm gonna email, text Mike. I don't have his phone number.
Okay, well, I'm on this one then, so. We're gonna do the same thing.
Let me just see if I can get.
There's a little light on it.
The worst thing about this one, red news, is
They should
ancient.
turn everything on. Yeah, the microphone,
Video
there's
connection.
one, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Move it.
sign for-
Here.
That's a good sign. Uh-oh.
Let me see if it'll work.
Yep.
It's like, hold on. Yes, we're thinking.
Susan.
Thank you, you see.
Oh, she sent it, to you then? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing all that.
Tom, I'm gonna call Mike Reese.
Okay.
But-
All right.
Oh, there he is. Okay, I sent the Mike.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started then. Well, hello, everybody. It's been a little while. Thank you for coming out tonight. I thought the first thing to do would be to have introductions. Some new faces and some new people, so I'll start. I'm Nate Delow, Budget Committee, and I was the chair last year.
Chet Hagenbarth, I'm the town administrator.
Mary Ann Zandell, finance manager.
Sadie Wells, Canaan Select Board, and I previously was on the budget committee for 10 years now on the select board, rep to the budget committee.
John Bergeron, planning board. Yes, budget committee.
Mike Sampson.
Karen Wolf. Budget committee.
Ryan Arbor, budget committee.
Jim Roger Board, I take the minutes.
Because I can say I'm budget committee too.
And Tom? Right.
Oh, me and Tom.
I think you're muted.
Luke. Okay, there we go. Yeah, Tom Duplansky. And I plan to make all of the other ones in person if I know long in advance. So,
Right. Well, that's part of our agenda tonight. Figure that out, so. I guess before we proceed, Mark, Brian, and Tom, have you all taken your oaths?
yes.
You have? Okay. Great. Well, then I guess I'll take attendance. Brian,
Here.
John,
Yes.
I'm here. Tom,
Here.
Mark,
Sure.
Sal is absent. Mike Reese is absent. Mike Sampson,
Here,
Sadie,
Here.
and Karen. All right, great. I sent out the minutes from January 11th. I don't know if everybody had a chance to take a look at those. If not, I have copies that I brought with me. So if anybody wants a copy, you can have one if you've already, would you like one?
Thank you.
Sure. I noted that in this one, we kept the public hearing open until the deliberative session. But then my recollection is we didn't actually do anything more on that at the deliberative session. I think we just
I
closed
think we
it.
just adjourned.
Yeah, we just adjourned, so I don't think we need a separate. I mean, could you put that in that, Roger? Could you put some sort of addendum that says, at the deliberative session, the budget committee closed the public hearing, something like that?
Move to adjourn to a bar.
It says here it was recessed.
On the 11th, and then in February, whatever day that was,
Right.
we just adjourned it. All right, Michael Reese, you're on. You hear us, Mike?
He's muted.
No. Well, do we have any other changes or to the minutes?
Give me a motion to discuss them. I didn't, or do we just discuss without a motion?
Oh, I just asked if anybody,
Oh, okay.
I haven't made any motions
Hang
yet.
on.
but-
If we're going to do it that way, I have some corrections.
Okay.
So for attendees, Cindy Neely, her last name spelled incorrectly, only one L.
Yeah, right.
Tom Opal has two Ps. And Jack was Mac, not Mac.
What was that?
Jack is WOZMA.
Oh, yeah. We had that problem this entire tenure. Was going back and forth. Thanks.
Do you want to make a motion? Somebody want to make a motion to accept the minutes as amended? Okay. Karen, and we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Say aye. Aye, any opposed? All right, good. So I guess the first thing I wanted to talk about was our schedule for the fall. It looks like in the past, we've done the first and third Thursdays of the month, and I think was because it didn't conflict with any of the other town board meetings. Does anybody know if that's still the case?
Well, it doesn't affect the town. Monica, who typically does the
Mhm.
setup, has first Thursday conflicts.
Yeah, I saw that.
So just so you're aware, you know, that,
She has first and fourth conflicts,
yeah,
right?
but I mean, as far as first and third, it was the first that was the issue.
Okay.
John, when are planning board meetings?
The second and fourth Thursday.
So we're not gonna wanna do that. When does the select board meet on Tuesdays?
Yeah, first and third.
And does some other board meet on Wednesdays? Wednesdays don't generally work out well for me, but I'm only one person.
I don't.
There's a source water protection committee that meets. They meet early, they meet at 5:30, so. I'll still be doing it.
So if we stuck with the tradition, then we would not have Monica on the third.
Somebody else we'd have to get somebody set up to run that, which is not an insurmountable issue.
Not a big deal. As long as it doesn't have to be me, I'm fine with it.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those, if it was simple, fine, if not, we can work around it.
Well, what's the pleasure of the board? Don't all speak at once.
I'm good with the status quo.
Go to the status quo.
Stick with it.
If anyone says it, then speak up now.
Yeah. Otherwise, first and third Thursdays. I personally like the 7 PM start. I know last year the select board had requested that we move it up. It's difficult for me, but it's not impossible, so I'll leave it to, you know, if people prefer the earlier. That's fine. I do like 7 because I can eat supper before I come here.
Will we keep it first and third at 7 P.M.?
Okay. Second that. So Brian second that. All right. So we'll, I don't know that we have to necessarily vote on that. I guess technically I can make that determination as the holdover chair. So I guess we'll do that.
And that's starting in September.
Yeah, I was thinking, so last year we started this, it looked like the third Thursday of September is when we started last year, and I don't know if that's just been traditionally what we've done. We also, last year was a busy year. I don't know if this year's shaping up to gonna be the same. I hope not. But who knows? We ended up having extra meetings because of that. But I know that, although Carrie Ann, you said that last year, we set everything up that this year there'd be some new software. Is that still the case?
Yeah, we will be using, internally, we'll be using the budgeting software. And we can give the budget committee a view only login. But those of us, Chet and myself will be doing our budgeting in the software.
Okay, does this software allow for the production of spreadsheets just the same?
Yep.
Okay. So from that perspective, that shouldn't throw any kind of major learning curve into the committee for this year?
No, it's just really a place to store everything, like department head quotes,
Okay.
notes, all that good stuff.
And the advantage and the importance of using that is when you make changes in it,
Mm-hmm.
it's already in the system, so when it converts, it's your actual budget, so. It's good that we don't have multiple, like, downloaded into Excel and then going back and forth. We want to try and avoid that, so we're just gonna do it all in the software.
And then you just generate
Yes.
spreadsheets from that, okay.
And you can run audit trails on the changes. to
Oh,
see where
okay.
we're Started at.
Oh, great.
Can we put the actuals to date on the web somehow or distribute them by email? I don't care whether it's PDF or Excel or.
Yeah, and one thing that we were talking about earlier is, the actual comparison from last year to this year will take a little more effort because
Everything moved around.
everything has moved a lot, so it's gonna be kind of a hunt and peck comparison for this year until we have a second year in the system.
Yeah.
So just so you're aware, we'll do our best to
We had
to
to-
try and give you some.
We had that trouble last year when we made the budget.
Right, so it's gonna happen again, and next year we should have some good historical data.
But as far as, because last year, one of the big things, in my recollection, was a lot of the stuff that is spread amongst the different departments I think we chose to keep it in those different departments, whereas in the past, it would have made a lot of that stuff would have been under one section, and that caused a lot of people to not be confused, but wonder why this huge drop off, but is the moving forward to keep everything itemized in the departments in which it belongs, just like we kind of ended up with last year.
Yeah, and we did it for health insurance and a couple others during the budget process, and now this year. Through all the AP posting, I've done, like, cell phones are broken out. Fuel is a lot more detailed and the custodial costs. But I made sure to do it the whole year, so you can see, like, every month. How
Okay.
much we pay,
All right.
so we at least have 2024, like, all clean, so we have that as a reference.
Okay. Sadie, does the select board? Given that everything, I think, passed last year that was put forward, and I know that, especially with the equipment, that was just for last year, and there's a lot more equipment that we also have, but does the select board see there being any major budgetary issues that will require additional meetings this, I guess, I don't know how you can predict that right now, but you've been meeting more than we have, and
I think that we had talked about last year, throughout the budget season, about adding more funds in some areas incrementally to try to build up to a point where we can do the things that the people in town want done. I so far haven't heard of anything other than that, more money for paving, road construction, government buildings for sure. But
any major, emergency projects like with last year with the roof at was that the meeting house or was it
This-
a library or both or
Senior center.
senior center?
Nothing so far, nothing, but yeah. And
Chuck's gonna do a building survey. He's
Yes,
gonna
we
find
are.
all our
It-
problems.
I will say that when you have a conversation about what expected changes, a lot of information will be shared related to capital. I think that's where the biggest deficiencies are. So when that stuff comes, we're gonna be talking about two things. One is when you look at capital expenses, it's basically the cost over life, and then you start putting it in annually. But looking at where we need to be, which we're not gonna be able to meet right away,
Mhm.
and where we are. And then saying, okay, so are we gonna take 5 years incrementally to try and make up the difference? I think that's where a lot of the conversation is gonna happen, is to say, in order for us to get to a point where we can maintain what we already own, and we're not talking about anything new or, or that we have to put gold on, it's just, getting us to a place where we're actually properly funding. I think that's what the real concern is.
Yes, Karen?
That lease payment, which was funded from capital reserves for this year, we're gonna have that. We have to deal with that either in the budget or something too. That's how much?
There's 150, about 100, close to $160,000 a year.
Right, so that's hanging out there
Was the,
for the road grader and for the pieces of equipment. And the initial payment was through the warrant article.
my understanding is once you're in the lease, that can be rolled, the payment for this year, for example, would, I presumably, if the selectman presents a budget, would be rolled into that, is that correct?
So
So,
we rolled into another warrant. To
No.
Another, oh, no, into another, authorization from from the undesignated fund balance. That's how we paid for it this year, correct?
Well, no. We actually had an opportunity, because one thing that we're gonna have to look at is how we're using undesignated funds. Undesignated funds are not funds you can use to pay for operational type of equipment. Our undesignated fund balance is supposed to be somewhere between 1.6 and $2.4 million. It's south of $200,000 based on the last number we got. So what we did when I was negotiating the final parts of the lease, the lease was switched to an arrears lease, which means we didn't make the first payment in this calendar year. We will not be using any undesignated funds. It starts next March, the payments. Because you can choose whether you make an upfront payment or an arrears payment. And the arrears payment allowed us to keep a little bit of the cash in operation. But when we talk about undesignated funds, and these are some of the things that we've been looking at as we start discovering issues. First of all, we're gonna have Jamie from DRA and our auditor also come in and do presentations as to, things that we're doing well, things we're not, making sure everybody's aware. But the one thing to keep in mind when you talk about undesignated fund balance, because we had a phone meeting with Jamie at the DRA. And they will not grant the town the ability to use undesignated funds in an emergency because we're too far down with our fund. We can't use that for anything else. And she kind of read the Carrie Ann the Riot Act about using it the way it's written in the warrant article.
there was some discussion last year about that, and it was unclear whether does DRE actually have the authority to do that?
Yes,
They do?
yes.
Because we was talking about what their recommendation for the undesignated fund balance was,
There-
saying we're so below it, but then in the past, there's a difference of opinion on calculation. And so I guess, DRA, who's gonna argue with them about a
Calculation,
lawsuit?
there's
but-
really not an argument about calculation.
Did they change the law this year?
No, and they still can stop you from using it because you have to get permission to use your undesignated funds in an emergency. Right, which is the state, and they would ask the DRA, so. All budgeted items are designated funds, so if you look anywhere during the middle of the year and you're saying whatever we haven't spent is undesignated, that's not correct. Liabilities must be accounted for to create undesignated funds, and two of the simplest liabilities I can tell you, one is vacation, okay? We have an accrued vacation system. Those have to go in, those funds have to be used every year and go into a liability account for that, because somebody could work for 20 years and have $100,000 built up in unused vacation. That's a liability to town and it has to be accounted for. In addition, we just had a payment we had to make on a tax sale that we didn't return the excess funds on. So we just paid $35,000 basically out of undesignated funds because it's money we weren't supposed to have kept for 3 years that we kept. So there's a lot of liability things that have to be included. And we also have things like receivables that go back 5 years. We have $800,000 in receivables on the ambulance. Most of that has to be written off, but we gotta do that process and get ourselves organized. But the reality is, a couple of things we want to get away from. One is touching the undesignated fund balance. There's just, you can't do that. We are going to have a major problem going forward if we continue to do that.
But like last year, for example, if the people of the town who are the legislature decide to do that at the deliberative session and to say, we're gonna approve, we're gonna amend this warrant article to use undesignated funds and it passes, DRA is gonna say, too bad, you can't do it?
No, they're not gonna say
Okay.
you can't use it for making your payments. They're gonna say you can't use it for emergencies, reasons that you would need, like if you had a FEMA event. Okay, so the issue is, we have a really poor financial position. One of the things that I've noticed we've done we've underfunded capital, whether roads, buildings, equipment, whatever it is. And at the same time decided we're not gonna ever finance.
Mhm.
Those two things can't go together. Because either you gotta, if you're not gonna finance, which I'm all for. You gotta properly fund all of your systems.
Capital reserve contribution is way bigger than what we've been doing.
It's way bigger, but it's still way under. You know, and, you know, I can give you a spreadsheet. We did a budget spreadsheet of what's been done for the last 20-some years. And basically, if you just take the 2001 budget and address it to inflation, we have under budgeted over the course of 23 years, $17 million, just keeping up with inflation. And when you consider that our roads, everybody talks about a 20-year replacement program on roads. Our roads for the last 20 years is you'd have to use $11 million to make that work over 20 years. Because we have $11 million worth of paved roads, and that's not including the gravel, it's not including any of the infrastructure, that's not including any of that. So the issues are, we have kind of kicked the can down the road, and we're now at the end of the road. And we're gonna have to decide, how do we want to address these things? But there's some significant financial concerns. We had to take out a tax anticipation note recently to make our payment to the school, because you know, we're not allowed by statute to delay payments. You know, I understand the town made deals with the school district. But that's not how we're doing business. We're paying contractors, we do work, we gotta pay them when we say we're gonna pay them. And I know we held a paving payment back last year for a couple of months. So we have to get our finances straightened up. And one of the things that has nothing to do with anything, as far as talking about what went wrong, is the way when you vote on the budget and when those tax bills go out, there's a 6-month delay. So you're always paying the year before's, getting the year before's revenue, paying the new budget's taxes for the first 6 months. So you're always underfunded if you're increasing by inflation. You're always slightly underfunded. And in order to be able to deal with cash flow, we're gonna have to get our undesignated fund balance up over $1 million. In 2010, I believe it was $1 million, the undesignated fund balance. So these are the things we have to get back to. And, you know, there's many different pieces that I can point out, you know, and I know we budgeted for delinquent tax revenue. And the issue there is, while we do take in a similar amount to that every year, the issue is by that same amount, we don't collect that current year's taxes. Like for December 31st, 2023, we took in $245,000 less than we billed. Well, if you did budget for both, we're losing $250,000 a year that we have to somehow make up during the year. So we want to make sure that we're really looking at actual revenues and making sure that we're collecting the correct amount of taxes a year so we don't continue the slide. Like that's a slide that I don't think would have been really noticed.
Yes, Mike.
Could we schedule a separate meeting just on those issues, because I got all sorts of questions and I want to verify
What?
some of the things you're saying. But the first one is, how the hell do we get to? What would you say? You said $100,000 in vacation time for.
I'm saying somebody could technically get there.
I thought we had policies that restricted how much carryover you could have.
We should if we don't.
But the thing is if you have an accrued,
Not tonight.
right, okay, and I'm just saying, there's legal things that tie to, if you have accrued vacation time, you can't take it away. So it's all depending on how you define, how you do it.
Okay, all right, so must be we changed policies because for the last 20 years, it's been true.
But just to be honest, so since I've been on the board, we have approved more carryover. But we had employees that retired before I came on the board that had $30,000 worth of vacation time accrued that some board along the way approved. So we can say we have policy, but we have certainly, there's a history of making exceptions.
Was that 30,000 encouraged within the last 12 years?
Yes, absolutely.
Did somebody,
But also.
that didn't happen. That's all I'm saying.
But to
I
answer
know,
your
like,
question,
yeah,
yes,
Shark
we
City,
will
but
build that.
The board never approved that vacation time for $30,000.
You can't take it away if you set it up in a certain way. So if it's set up as accrued, like it's an earned time,
There's a policy.
policy cannot overstate, if it's an earned time vacation policy, okay, and you earn your time, you can't take it away by law. If you say, we're gonna give you 2 weeks for the year, and then we limit what you can carry over, that's a different discussion, but that's not my understanding.
Are you aware of that law? I've never heard of it before. I'd like a separate meeting on all these issues.
So
because-
perhaps, well, back, I don't want to get too far astray here, as far as the scheduling, but perhaps we meet the first Thursday in September, right after Labor Day. And maybe that could be that kind of meeting in which you're talking
Yeah,
about.
and that's when I will have the auditor and the DRA come to talk about it.
That would work. Is
And then we
everybody
do it
okay
as
with
an
that?
informational meeting, because the goal is, we're gonna use a lot of these constraints to try and develop the initial budget,
Mhm.
you know, making sure that we're not gonna assume that we're not gonna budget for, delinquent tax collection, like, you know, and things like that.
So
I
we
mean,
can-
there's a lot of pieces like that we have to be cognizant of, and capital wise is what we've underfunded for years.
Before that meeting, could you send out a list of all the issues so we can at least think about?
Yeah.
That'd be good.
So I have a question. So if we deferred the lease payment,
Yes,
so we have to figure out in the budget for next year, that first lease, is that correct? That's
for
an
the
expense
next
that
7
we-
years, we have to make that lease payment.
And it needs to be an item in the budget.
And I think it's an item in the budget now, and it's basically just something we have to carry forward. It'll be in the default budget because we already entered into the contract.
So
so-
so that when you're talking about maybe a significant increase in an item in the budget, I see that as one of those.
Yes.
That was the only reason I brought that up.
Yep.
Well, actually,
Just to
that'll be
clarify
in,
that.
that's in this current budget.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
it's already, it's already in what we have budgeted, so that's not a new item.
Well, okay, oh, that you budgeted, but the budget committee hasn't reviewed. Okay, got it. Okay.
No, I'm saying the budget committee voted and approved that last year, that they were gonna have it in there. Have it in our budget.
Well, I don't. see-
Well, is it-
I don't.
They
see
budgeted
it.
the expense, I should say.
Is it in the annual report? Is the budget that's in the annual report correct?
Yes,
It
And
wasn't.
that shows,
well, I mean, it shows it is because it hadn't been approved yet, it was in the warrant article, and then that gets added into the budget. So the warrant article then.
well, I guess, can we have a copy of this year's budget? as a judge?
But when, yeah, I mean, actually, one of the things that we're talking about also is the chair will be getting monthly,
You're making a
Finance
big
report.
assumption, sir.
well, the
I'm
chair
kidding, I'm kidding.
holistically will be getting monthly financials, and we distribute those to the board, and you will be able to see the month of every month's
Okay,
where it is, and it has the entire
you
budget in
can
there.
send it to the secretary. We don't know who that is yet.
Well, I'm saying whoever is in these spots, that's who will be getting.
Right now, we don't have one.
I should have done that first.
What, for board elections before we, well, we were discussing well, we were discussing the schedule. So,
That's how
Yeah,
yeah.
Schedule should have been after.
We'll start the first Thursday in September.
yeah,
To look at all these things that
All right.
we've got to kind of get in our heads here. And then we'll go, yes, no,
Sadie?
Can I request that we start that meeting a little bit earlier than 7? I think it would,
Yeah.
because it seems like it might be a long meeting, and especially if we have guests that are going to have to drive back. I don't know how far they drive. Do you think we could maybe just that one? Start
Sure.
A little earlier?
What's your pleasure, 6?
I think 6 is good. Because everyone bring us down.
Because we've already chewed up a half hour on schedule.
Yeah,
We haven't
exactly.
actually talked about the schedule too much.
So, but the schedule will be starting the first September, it'll be starting September 1st and
That's up to
Yeah. first and third Thursday. First one will be at 6, the rest of them will be at 7.
Do
Okay,
you want me to bring dinner for you too? I can do
I'll
that.
just be grumpy. That's
That's great. There you go. You could be here at 5.
I'll let you know what I want.
Okay.
And then, so we got elect officers, we have 3 on this, right? Generally, we have a chair, vice chair, and a secretary. And Ellie, who was the secretary for as long as I can remember, is not on the board anymore. So we need to elect officers, so.
Made the chair.
I second.
Why'd you gotta do that? I mean, I'm willing to do it for another year, but I gotta have a secretary. Somebody's gotta step up, cause I don't wanna do everything. So, and Sal said he can't be the vice chair because of, for health reasons, so he'd rather not, but. So I will do it. I don't know if I'm gonna run again for next year, but I will do it for this year. If you guys want me to, nobody else wants to do it. Sure, nobody else wants to do it?
Well, a motion in a second.
It's just
Discussion.
the discussion, yeah. All right, well, I guess there's
Call the
no
question.
more discussion. We'll vote on it. Who wants to vote for Nate as the chair?
Yes.
Those opposed? Eyes have it. All right, vice chair. Somebody want to do that? Gentleman on the screen? Anybody?
I'll nominate Mike Reese for vice chair.
I'll second
Is
that.
he gonna say no? He's muted, he can't.
There he is.
Actually,
Still muted, Mike.
he would make a great secretary, because he takes perfect notes. No, we don't need a minute taker. We already have a minute taker.
Wear both hats. Vice chair and the secretary.
We can't hear you, Mike.
I am double.
You're muted.
And that's good.
Now, Mike would be very good as a VP or as a secretary, either one.
Unmute. I thought, I didn't realize I was unmuted. The reason I'm on Zoom is because I didn't want to volunteer for any of these things. No, I'm only kidding. I'm out of town. I'm out of town. That's why I'm on Zoom.
Luckily, you're not volunteered. You just,
Yeah, I
you've
made
been a motion.
I made a motion, I don't think we have a second.
Yeah, no, I did hear Katie. Sadie, I really do appreciate it, but I'd really rather not at this point. I would hope somebody else could step up. But thank you.
John seconded it.
Well, vice chair is not that big a deal, is it?
No, only if the chair is not here.
Chairs?
I nominate Karen, vice chair.
No, I can't, I have his health issue.
I mean, what I need is a secretary. I don't care if we don't have a vice chair. I need somebody who can work with.
Nate, can you describe what the secretary duties are? Maybe some of that, maybe that would.
Sure, keep notes, but basically work with me to, when we start reaching out to department heads to schedule them to come. Now, it's not a ton of work because we largely plan to follow what we've done in the past and send it out for dates, but it's emails to department heads. I'd ask you to post the notice, although we'll just notice all the meetings at once and that'll be it. So, and if we have any special meetings, you have to post notice for that. Coordinate with Roger on the minutes, get the draft minutes from Roger.
Send it to the secretary.
Secretary. And you would, and the secretary sends the draft minutes to the committee.
And for the office.
And Chet and
And what?
Marianne are gonna send you stuff every month, and you just forward it to all of us.
Need to make sure that the draft minutes and then the approved minutes are in the office, the town office, within, I think, like 3 days.
Within 3 days?
I think it's 3.
Okay.
It's
Well,
not
actually,
else, it's on secretary.
The law doesn't require that. If they're just sent to the town office electronically, and if somebody walks in the door and says, I want a copy, then I mean, if Neville or Monica or whoever has received it, they can print it out.
I think
Okay.
that's what I did. I think
Yeah.
it's,
I mean, I could do a lot of that stuff for him. But, I mean, Ellie was very, distinct about
Well, she was very hands-on and did lots of things.
that.
For
in
sure.
particular, not having me do that kind of stuff.
You know, like distributing to
I
all.
can send it to the town, I can send it to you guys. It doesn't matter to me, but she was a stickler for that stuff.
So I guess the answer, Mike, is, just working with me and between the two of us, I don't think it's not gonna be that onerous. Again, just basically taking the time out of your day to send emails to, department heads and respond and things like that. That's kind of what it is.
And I think she reserves this room too.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that. Once we have the schedule, just write the chief. I wrote him about this one, so he's pretty accessible.
And Mike, what she would do is schedule all the department heads now. So she would send out an email saying, okay, starting in October, here's your meeting. If you can't make it, you need to let me know now, so that she wasn't trying to coordinate. She basically just assigned.
Which I think is a good way to do it,
Yeah, it
instead of
worked out
hurting
very-
cats.
Yeah.
So I could, we could take a look, Mike, at what we did last year and then just send it out, and the assumption being if nobody objects or says they can't make it, then that's what it's gonna be. So it's not a whole lot, but it's more than I wanna do by myself.
It's more than.
Well, if nobody else will do it, I guess I'll do it. Somebody's got to do it. What I was concerned about is that, Ellie had so much generational knowledge that it was quite, I mean, it was very impressive. It was also daunting to think who's going to replace Ellie. I realized a lot of that was because she had been chairperson for a long time, but I don't, her absence is going to be felt. But I mean, I can stumble through some of this other stuff that you just described. If nobody else is going to do it, I'll try.
So-
Okay, then I'll nominate Mike Reese for secretary.
Second.
All right, any further discussion on that? No? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Me? No, just kidding.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
So we don't
Sure.
have a vice chair. I mean, it is pretty easy. Basically, if I can't make it, can you run the meeting? That's really what the
Well,
vice
the
chair
next
does.
officer available will have to do it, the secretary.
Actually, anybody could really do it, right? I mean, technically, somebody's just gotta run the meeting. I like to put together agendas ahead of time and send them out. I know chairs in the past didn't always do that, but I like doing it because it helps run a meeting, So, but if you're just chairing a meeting that I can't make it to, then I don't even know if you necessarily have to do that, but does anybody want to do that? Aaron, Mike?
I'll do it.
All right, I will nominate Mike Sampson as the vice chair.
Don't miss a meeting.
I'll second that.
All right. Do we have any discussion, Mike? Yeah, any discussion? Any commenting?
I feel about the same as the two of you.
No, none of this.
All right, good.
Yourself, you're voting against yourself. All that matters is the numbers now.
Have any sense at all. But it's not.
All right.
All right. Well, all right, all those in favor of Mike Sampson serving as vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nate, I have a question. You mentioned that we're voting on this because Sal couldn't do it again. Is he going to step down from the CIP also?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they wanted me to take his place on CFP for an alternate.
They did?
Well,
Okay, so I
the
get,
way I understood it, because I had met with, was it Claude? And he said that Sal said he's going to continue on the CIP. He's
Okay.
gonna have to attend remotely.
okay,
And then there was a conversation about having an alternate be available in the event that he wasn't able to go or
okay,
go in person, so, but he's going to participate via
Okay.
Zoom.
all right. So does that answer your question, Mike?
Yeah, sure. Sure. I mean,
Is he leaving the budget committee?
No, I don't think so, no.
No, just not serving budget. Fine, good, okay.
As far as I know, it's still on the economic development.
Let's see, one issue that Ellie raised, and I think Mike Reese, answered it nicely, but just because it was raised. She had the concerns about there being 3 members of the planning board currently serving on the budget committee, and about a quorum being present at the meetings. And I kind of think we hashed this out last year, and so long as they're not conducting planning board business at this meeting, I don't think it constitutes a meeting of the planning board. That being said, perhaps when we're discussing the planning board budget, and if things are being talked about, the planning board may want to, I don't know, say something about that or notice it, or I think it's really just a notice issue. I don't see any, I mean, you can talk about things in public. You're not taking a vote as the planning board though, so
I don't think there's any.
I don't think there's really.
not
an
a
issue.
second meeting being held.
Yeah,
I mean, the selectmen show up at multiple meetings and they don't declare that they're having a meeting.
as long as you're not voting on stuff that's the
That's just
purview
like-
of the. I think it's
Select
fine,
board.
but,
Select board, true.
so. But anyway, I just wanted to raise it. We've talked about it. I don't think it's an issue.
Very good.
How many members of the planning board are there? 5?
So,
7? Oh, okay. So it's not even a quorum. That would
that's
be,
right,
it.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
takes 4 to get a forum.
And that was the one thing I double checked the open meeting statutes was, as I indicated. We can have participation by Zoom, but we need to have a quorum in person. So I just, if there's ever a meeting where we don't have a quorum in person, we really can't do business. We can meet if we want and talk about stuff, but we can't take any votes. And what was the rule about somebody voting by Zoom, I think
That's okay if they have a valid reason.
they have a valid
They gotta
reason.
be sick, or they gotta be out of
Yeah,
town.
basically that's it. And we have to agree that that's okay, and which we would, of course. But it still can't count toward a quorum.
Right.
It can count toward a vote, but not toward a quorum, so. And that quorum requirement was changed by executive order, I believe, during COVID, but that's gone. So now the statute says that. So I just want to be clear about that. Slightly different, but everybody's, if you can't make it, participate on Zoom, we have it, so. But nobody here is gonna just do Zoom because they feel like it, everybody here is doing this because they want to participate, and so we'll be here if we can, right, so.
One thing on the planning board too, if I'm not wrong, the 3 of us that are on the planning board, there's only 2 official members and there's 1 alternate. So I'm an alternate planning board person.
Okay.
So if that matters.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you guys started having, 4 of you had a little meeting in the corner instead of doing planning board business, then there's a
I
problem,
don't
but
even
that's.
talk to the alternate. You know,
They pretend like it doesn't exist, yeah.
He's only happy when, okay, you're good tonight.
Okay, good. Well, that's all I've got for this evening. I don't know if anybody's got any other business they want to bring before this meeting. Well, Mike, I'll be in touch with you about putting, I can put together the notice and then we can start looking at the for the
Sure.
fall. So,
Sure.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, I might reach out to Ellie myself directly and just ask her for some advice too.
Go for it.
That'd be an excellent idea. The time I talked to Ellie, and we hadn't talked before, she very forthcoming, and
Yeah.
seemed like a really great asset.
So.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so Sadie made a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye,
Aye.
opposed? All right.
Oh, okay. Oh, Thursday.